I sat at my dining table tonight, holding a small box wrapped in green paper, the kind Lucas used to love when he was little. My hands wouldn't stay steady. I kept tying the ribbon, untying it, then tying it again, anything to stop the sting behind my eyes. A soft buzz lit up my phone. I prayed it was him, maybe calling to say he was on his way, maybe telling me he missed me. But no, it was the message I'd been dreading. Mom, don't come this year. Christmas is just for our immediate family. Immediate family. As if I'm not even part of that anymore. I swallowed hard and curled my lips into a smile, hoping the walls couldn't hear how much it hurt. I pressed the gift to my chest and stared at the blinking lights on my tree. They looked dimmer somehow. Or maybe that was just me. Lucas thought he'd closed the door on me this Christmas. He didn't know I had already opened another one he never saw coming. And soon, every person he brushed aside, every heart he stepped over, would walk through it. Including one guest who would shift his whole world. If you believe no parent should ever be pushed out of Christmas, go on and hit the subscribe button. If you choose not to, maybe think about the one person who once waited for you in a room just like this. I had spent the morning wrapping gifts, arranging ribbons, imagining the smiles on Lucas's kids' faces. Every box, every bow, a piece of my heart tucked inside. The phone buzzed. I wiped my hands on my sweater and answered, hoping for warmth in his voice. "Hi, Mom," he said, hesitation weighing each word. Then it came. "Mom. Sophie and I talked. We want a quiet Christmas. Just us and the kids." I froze. The words sank like stones in water, rippling through my chest. I forced a soft, polite laugh, hiding the sting behind a mask of calm. "Of course, sweetie. I understand." But inside, my heart cracked. Lucas sounded hurried, like he'd rehearsed this for weeks, or maybe years. He hung up before I could find the courage to ask why. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the gifts I'd so lovingly prepared. The room was quiet, almost too quiet. Then my eyes fell on an old photograph, yellowed at the edges. Lucas as a boy, smiling with neighbors, teachers, and family friends who had helped him grow. People he'd forgotten, people who had shaped the boy he'd become. And in that instant, a thought flickered, small but fiery. Maybe this year, it's not just about them. I sank into the armchair, the phone still cold in my hand, and memories began to surface. The times Lucas brushed past friends like they were invisible, the neighbors he ignored when he needed help, the people who'd stood by him quietly, expecting nothing in return. Henry. My old neighbor. He had once quietly paid Lucas's rent when I was struggling to make ends meet. Not a word, no thanks. Just help, given and forgotten. Mrs. Adeyemi. His former teacher. She fought for him when he was one misstep from being expelled, risking her own reputation to defend a boy who barely noticed her devotion. Jacob. The mechanic who patched up Lucas's car again and again, never charging a dime, never asking for recognition. Even Sophie's sister, Evelyn. Lucas had driven her away with his pride, making her feel small, unnecessary, like she was nothing. I whispered, almost to myself, everyone he left behind, everyone he used when he needed them. A fire stirred inside me, slow but insistent. My fingers clenched, and I rose, staring out the frosted window at the quiet street. Maybe, I murmured, my voice stronger now, maybe it's time they all had a Christmas too. The resolve settled in my chest like a drumbeat. Not revenge. Not humiliation. A Christmas of acknowledgement, a Christmas of belonging for those who had always mattered. And for the first time that day, a small, determined smile curved my lips. I walked through the quiet house, my hands brushing over the familiar furniture. My modest home had warmth, yes, but it felt small, almost fragile. And then I remembered the other place. The one Lucas never knew existed. The mansion my late husband had left me, hidden, private, waiting. Sunlight spilled across the marble floors as I stepped inside, and I felt the weight of years lift from my shoulders. This was where Christmas would happen. I picked up my phone and began calling. Henry, Mrs. Adeyemi, Jacob, even Evelyn. Each voice on the other end was surprised, grateful, a little hesitant. But I could hear it, the spark of hope I hadn't realized had been missing from their lives for so long. Decorations arrived. Trees trimmed. Lights strung. Every detail mattered. I wanted this Christmas to feel like the homecoming they never had. A place where every overlooked heart mattered. And as I arranged the final touches in the grand hall, I whispered to myself, a grin curling my lips, they'll know they belong. And Lucas, he'll learn what he's been blind to for far too long. Before we continue, imagine being told by your own child you aren't wanted. Subscribe now, unless you think this could never happen to you, or you've never felt the sting of being left out by someone you loved most. The calls went out, one by one. And I listened, my heart swelling, trembling, as voices I hadn't heard in years poured out their surprise. Henry's voice cracked first. He never even said thank you. Never once. Evelyn sighed, a mix of hurt and relief. He pretends I don't exist. I didn't think anyone remembered me. Jacob chuckled softly, though his eyes were wet. I always wondered what happened to him, if he ever thought about us. And then Mrs. Adeyemi, wise and gentle, whispered, Grace, he needs this more than he knows. Maybe this Christmas will finally teach him something he can't ignore. One by one, they all said yes. Every person Lucas had sidelined, forgotten, or hurt, now on their way to the mansion. I leaned against the balcony railing, staring at the horizon, feeling the weight of anticipation settle in. A storm was coming. Not of rain, but of realization, of reckoning. And I, at last, was ready. Just when the mansion hummed with preparation, my phone buzzed again. Lucas. Mom, hope you're okay spending Christmas alone. We'll visit after New Year. I didn't reply. I let the words hang in the cold night air. Later, I saw his posts online, photos of their perfectly decorated tree, his kids smiling, captioned, family only. A flicker of amusement danced in my eyes. I whispered to the empty room. You'll see them soon, Lucas, every last one. The clock ticked toward midnight. The house held its breath, the lights twinkling in anticipation. I sipped my tea, calm, patient. I knew the lesson was about to unfold, and he had no idea it was already begun. Morning sunlight spilled across the mansion as the first car pulled up. Henry, smiling despite the years, carried a basket of pastries. Evelyn stepped out next, holding a tray of cookies she'd baked herself. Jacob waved from the driveway, hands full of ornaments and a bottle of wine. Even Mrs. Adeyemi arrived with a carefully wrapped gift. The house filled with laughter, chatter, and the aroma of a feast in the making. Music floated through the rooms, lights twinkled on the grand tree, and the fireplace cast a warm glow across every corner. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt joy, not the quiet, careful kind I'd clung to, but the kind that swells in your chest and won't be silenced. Photos were taken, meals prepared together, stories shared. Every person who Lucas had overlooked, ignored, or taken for granted now surrounded me with love and gratitude. This was what Christmas was meant to be. I watched, heart full, realizing that true wealth wasn't money, it was moments like this, moments of real connection. If you wish Grace had a son who valued her, hit subscribe. If you don't subscribe, explain in the comments why Grace's loneliness doesn't touch your heart. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed endlessly. Lucas's name kept popping up on WhatsApp, first a text, then another, then a flurry of calls he never usually made. Curious, or maybe suspicious, he had seen my WhatsApp status. Photos of the mansion, of Henry laughing with me over breakfast, Evelyn holding her cookies, Jacob arranging decorations, Mrs. Adeyemi smiling warmly. All the people he once ignored, now here, all joyful, and all with me. Sophie's voice crackled over the line. "Did your mom win the lottery or something?" Her tone sharp, disbelief dancing in every word. Lucas's chest tightened. Fear, real, palpable fear, settled in. He realized he had underestimated me for years. Without another word, he rushed to the mansion, Sophie and the children in tow. My heart beat a little faster, but I stayed calm. When they arrived, I opened the grand door, but didn't step aside. I let them stand there for a moment, letting the reality sink in. You'll have to wait and watch before you see what you've been missing all these years. The door opened slowly. Lucas stepped inside, eyes wide. And then he saw them, Henry, Jacob, Evelyn, Mrs. Adeyemi, all smiling, warm, and radiant. Every person he had pushed aside, every hand he had ignored, every heart he had taken for granted. His face drained of color. Words faltered at the edge of his lips, but none would come out right. Henry's voice cut through the silence, steady and cold. "You never looked back, Lucas. You never once remembered who was here when you needed help." Mrs. Adeyemi shook her head softly, her eyes sharp. "You forgot the hands that lifted you, the hearts that believed in you when no one else did." Jacob stepped forward, arms crossed. "You made success look lonely, Lucas, and now you see why." Lucas opened his mouth to defend himself, to explain, to apologize, but every excuse sounded hollow against the weight of their presence. I stepped forward, my voice calm but unwavering. "You didn't want me for Christmas. So I spent it with people who actually treated you like family." A heavy silence settled in the room. Lucas swallowed hard, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had lost. Lucas sank into the sofa, shoulders shaking. Words tumbled out in a rush, raw and unfiltered. I was scared, he admitted. Scared of judgment. Pressured to look perfect. I thought, leaving you out would make me look put together. Sophie stepped forward, her voice trembling. I should never have agreed. I was wrong, I held them both, gently, but firmly. My hands rested on their shoulders, grounding them in a truth they had ignored for too long. Family isn't who you show online. Family is who stood beside you when no one else did. The tears flowed freely now, not just theirs, but mine too. Years of distance, disappointment, and misunderstanding unraveling in one quiet, powerful moment. I waited at the mansion doorway, watching Lucas shift nervously from foot to foot. His eyes darted to every familiar face, Henry, Mrs. Adeyemi, Jacob, Evelyn, each one who had quietly carried him through moments he'd forgotten. You may enter, but only after you ask forgiveness from those you abandoned. Lucas swallowed hard. One by one, he approached each guest. I'm sorry, Henry. I should have never taken your help for granted. I'm sorry, Mrs. Adeyemi, for forgetting the lessons you taught me. I'm sorry, Jacob and Evelyn. I see now what I lost. Each apology carried weight, a tangible shift in the room. Forgiveness glimmered in their eyes, and slowly, smiles returned. Finally, we all gathered for a long, warm Christmas dinner. Laughter filled the mansion, the fire crackled, and the magic of belonging wrapped around every heart. I lifted my glass, eyes meeting Lucas's, and whispered, "This Christmas wasn't about revenge. It was about reminding my son who loved him when he loved no one back." If you believe Lucas needed this lesson, subscribe now. If you don't, tell us in the comments why you think he was right to exclude his mother.